So pleiotropic genes are something contrasting in comparison to polygenes, because in pleiotropy, one single gene has more than one phenotypic effect. So one gene having multiple phenotypic effect is referred to as pleiotropy. So you can remember it as one gene having multiple effect. When I say effect, I'm talking about the phenotypic effect, as opposed to, just to create a contrast, a parallel over here, many genes controlling the same character, same phenotype or character. This was the principle behind polygenes. See how pleiotropy is a polar opposite of polygenes, isn't it? In polygenes, there are many genes, as in more than one, two or more genes. Okay, so I'll write it here, two or more, controlling the same character. That is a polygene. But here we have only one gene. I want you all to focus on pleiotropy, but to create a parallel, I have showed you about what polygenes also are. Now you can clearly distinguish between what polygene and pleiotropy, how they are different from each other. Coming back to pleiotropy, one particular gene has more than one effect. So here you can see there is a single gene located on the chromosome, and it produces a gene product, and this exhibits pleiotropy because it has its control over phenotype A, phenotype B, phenotype C. For example, let me take one gene that is mentioned in the textbook. I want you to refer to that same example for pleiotropy. Let us assume there is a gene B in case of pea plant. I'm making it extremely simple here. So I'm not delving into the much details here, because what you need to do is, let us assume there is a gene B. This gene B, which is present in the case of the pea plant, is responsible for two traits. It controls two traits, or rather, instead of calling it a trait, I would prefer to call it as a phenotype. One is, not only does this gene control the shape of the seed, but it also has its influence on the size of the starch grain. Now inside the seed, the reserve food material is stored in the form of starch grain. So there is one single gene, but there are two phenotypes. See how one gene is having its influence on two phenotypes. Not only does the gene capital B, not only does it represent the shape of the seed, not only does it code for the shape of the seed, but it also controls the expression of the size of the starch grain. So this is the best example for pleiotropy. So if there is a plant which is capital B, it will have round seeds, and it will have large starch grain. And if it is a plant which is small b, it has wrinkled seed and small starch grains. So see, there is a gene controlling not only the shape of the seed but also the size of the starch grain. And if you were to cross these two together, homozygous capital B with homozygous small b, you will be surprised, because you will get a heterozygous plant which has round seeds, all right, but it has intermediate sized starch grain. See how peculiar the results are. The seed is round, so when it comes to the shape, we are seeing a clear dominance, because round is expressing over wrinkled. But when we come to the size of the starch grain, we are seeing incomplete dominance. Incomplete dominance in the sense that probably you know that intermediate means it is neither large nor small. It is somewhere in between the two. So it actually has intermediate starch grain, and the color and the shape happens to be round. So if you look at it from the point of view of the shape, round has had a clear dominance over wrinkled. But if you look at it from the point of view of the starch grain, it is neither large nor is it small. So in terms of starch grain, it is incomplete dominance. In terms of the the shape of the seed, it is a case of dominance. So this is the best example for pleiotropy that you should learn. First of all, pleiotropy is a gene having multiple effects. Here we took a gene which not only controls the shape but also the size of the starch grain, and we also saw another peculiarity that when you cross two pure breeding parents in the F1 generation, the F1 hybrid has round shape, meaning in terms of shape, round is dominant over wrinkled. But in reality, what is the starch grain size here? It is neither large nor small. It is intermediate. So when it comes to the starch grain size, it is an example for incomplete dominance. But it so happens that even though the size of the starch grain is intermediate, the shape is not affected. The shape is round. So if you look at round as an entity on itself, all by itself, you would say that it is dominance. But if you look at only from the point of view of the starch grain, you would say that it is incomplete dominance. Somehow the gene product, say for example, the capital B gene is responsible for production of protein B, and the small b gene is responsible for production of protein small b. Somehow these proteins, which are the gene products, have interacted with them in such a way that they are giving rise to intermediate starch grain size. That means it is not just the gene that determines whether it is dominant or recessive. It is the gene product and how these gene products interact with each other. The gene product is nothing but a protein, as you all are aware. A gene codes for a specific protein. It directs the synthesis of a protein. So gene B, capital B, is coding for a protein. Gene capital small b is coding for a protein. Those proteins, how they are going to interact, what kind of biochemical pathways they are going to carry out in a cell, you cannot predict that. So that interaction is resulting in the formation of a starch grain size which is neither large nor small. It is intermediate. So this is the example which has been taken in your textbook, which you should know thoroughly. And this is a classical case of pleiotropy because there is one gene controlling shape as well as size of the starch grain. That means one single gene has a multiple effect on the organism, and that is why it is called pleiotropy.